Hello there everyone, this is Mark 3 and welcome back to Rust Removal as I work on my lovely little starter craft. So far so good. We have got basic hull shape, we have got propulsion, we have got turning, we have got control systems. We are just in the middle of installing the PID. The thing floats by itself, which is always useful. And if we look at the listing, we have 4,986 spent, so we are currently at 20 to 25% of our established budget, and we already have a hull. So, you know, I think this is going to turn out okay. But then again, the weapon system is usually the most expensive part. So, anyway, moving on. Let's see, I want to configure this PID. You are going to control the altitude. Flat out. You are going to be quite aggressive about it. The idea of this one is it's going to try and hold it up a little bit. Also, I'm going to drop it to like 0.3, so it's going to predict where it's going to be 0.3 seconds in the future and adjust itself aggressively according to that. So that's why I turned up the derivative and the gain. So this one is going to be controlling pitch again. 0.1 derivative. I'm going to set this one to 0.3. So again, it's super aggressive on the pitch. So this is going to try and keep it flat. And this one, I might turn this one down, but this one controls the roll. Then again, this craft does have some roll issues. So yeah, but again, because I'm trying to keep the craft stable, low derivative. So I'm going to drop this off, and we'll see how the PIDs respond to it ditching in the water. As you can see, that it's already trying to adjust itself. It seems to be doing okay. It is trying to work out something. Interesting enough. Did I forget to set it? I think I forgot to set a thruster to reverse. I keep saying thruster. No, you are on reverse. You are on reverse. Have I missed something? You are right-hand side. You are left-hand side. You guys on the nose are responsible for pitch and altitude. Yeah, it's responding to something. The roll is not very happy. Flat out. Oh, that's why. I had the left-hand side set to right-hand side, so that was why it was acting up. But yeah, okay, there we go. So this thing is now lifting itself. It is responding too aggressively to the roll, so I need to... There we go, I'll reduce that a bit, so it's going to try and cancel itself out. Also, I'll reduce the gain down to 0.05, so it doesn't respond as quickly. Predict yourself 1 second in the future. At least you can see on this handy dandy little graph what it's trying to do. So blue is the derivative. There we go. So it's rocking a bit, but we are actually in somewhat rough seas. What happens if I set that to 5? Sometimes you just need to experiment a little bit with this. Oh, there we go. That's a lot smoother. Right, so if we go forward, do we still do a wheelie? Would have us put in the right key. Yes, we do, but the PID does react and try to keep us stable. That's great. However, for your overall pitch control, we actually want to have more in the back. This is normal, actually, if you've got a craft that doesn't need that. Actually, there's a general rule for the thruster craft as well. Yeah, so we want that thrust reversing. Notice, by the way, we haven't actually finished setting up our altitude PID. Mainly because I don't know if we actually want that one yet. Actually, though, it would be good to set it up anyway. So yeah, The rear thrust will be being used to control pitch response. That's why it's better to have that increase stronger than the forward, because then the forward will react to altitude and the rear will respond to pitch. So if the craft starts flying, you know, starts to flip over in that direction, the rear will correct it more aggressively. And that's one of the keys to making a stable thruster craft, and also a stable boat and a stable submarine. If you're having pitch problems, you can beef up the rear control system, and that will usually help fix it. There we go, we are going nose up a little bit, but that is okay. We are currently bopping along at a nice smooth 17. Right, last one. We want our altitude. Altitude, you are currently set to 0. What if I set to 1? It'll lift it slightly out of the water. We can do better than that. Let's make it 2. There we go, so we're sitting a little bit higher, again. The craft is trying to pitch up a little bit. It's bouncing a little bit. But that's okay. But we're now doing a flat 18, and I think it's bouncing a little bit just because our forward props are coming out of the water a little bit. But we're cornering hard at almost 18 meters per second. So, yeah, I think we've got ourselves a solid hull, which sits fairly well above the waterline. It does have a slight tendency to bob around a little bit, so I think that's a little bit more fine-tuning with the PID required. As I said, I'm not the best with the PID, I can just usually get what I want it to do. Let's increase the derivative to 5. I want it to respond a bit faster and predict where you're going to be in like a second. So I'm going to try that. How does that look to you? It's not responding as well now. I think it's actually having a slight problem because there is no counter at the front of the craft to try to drag it back down into the water. Yeah, full speed is actually reduced now. So let's drop that down to 3. Let's drop it. Predict really hard where it's going to go. Yeah, as you can see, it's trying to pitch, but is it just getting slower? Oh, I know why. Of course it's getting slower. The power supply isn't up for this. There we go. It's not able to keep up with the demands. So I was actually draining the battery flat. And this, ladies and gents, is the problem with a temporary power source. It's like I was testing it with more demanding systems, and then it was just not managing to do anything with it. Which one was pitch? Your pitch. Okay, let's set it to 1. Let's set it to 5. You are fairly aggressive. Right, that should be good. Let's reduce the predict in 0.3 seconds. Actually, having it waving around a little bit like this is useful. Actually, when it has enough engine power, it is running okay. So yeah, this seems to be all right for the most part. Right, let's continue. Let's dock it up. We need to get our power system sorted out. When we are running flat out, we are using looks like about 330 power to run all the propellers. So that gives us our movement budget, which is 330 horsepower for the propellers, including PID stabilization, turning, all that jazz, about 330 horsepower. Now, of course, as we've got the altitude, which will help us to just work. So, right. Now we just need to get ourselves an actual power supply which can deal with that. A 330 horsepower system. Tear out the RTG, tear out that. tear out the buoyancy, at least for the moment, and I'm going to reload those horizontally. There we go. So yeah, right. Got a hull. We've got movement. We've got shape. We've got PID installed. What's next for our entrepreneuring little craft? What we want next is, I am thinking, well, a power source would be nice, but engines. Engines, we can hang on to that for the moment. Let's actually have a look at weaponry. So, back to our handy dandy rig over here. Let's have a look, see, what have we got? We want something short and relatively low recoil. What gauge are you? You are a 250. So if I set you to a 250, I wish these guys would remember shell diameter, but for a 250 you are 6,300. Yeah, for a standard one it's like 250. I think it's probably going to be the best bet. Though this is an alternate one for the 250, or was that 300? Is that 300? Oh yeah, I've got two alternates for the 300, but the 250 I've only got the one shell type. Okay, so 3 powder, 1 heavy, 1 sabo, and 1 hollow point. Let's install that one. Cannons, ammo control. It is a length 3. It has a hollow point nose, a sabo body, and a solid body. So not a complex shell. 250. Kinetic damage 7,200. That tells me that I actually had the powder charge reduced slightly in the other shell, so let's go ahead and really quickly check that one. It would have been better for me to copy this, but I'm not familiar with it. So let's see, that was at 1, that was at 1, that one's at... No, yeah, 0.61, so basically 2.5 powder charge. This is important for a reason, by the way. It's having less powder charge reduces recoil and also reduces... reduces the powder charge, and it reduces the cooldown on the barrel, so it allows the weapon to fire faster. I am a big fan of using barrel cooldown as a method for increasing rate of fire. So if I can get a shell to do what I want it to do and reduce the cooldown time on it, then by definition to me that becomes a better shell. So this shell needs a 2-meter rack, which is actually perfect for what we've got. So that's absolutely fine. We need a 1-meter neck. But a 2-meter barrel, so we can actually very easily install that in our existing hull structure. New object. Yeah, we can make a very, very basic cannon without any trouble here. So, install a wood block underneath, which is, I think I'm going to base it like, I guess here? That'll do. No, let's reset it slightly. Let's put it like roughly centre of mass, which is actually about here. So, yeah, put the cannon on centre of mass. New object, a 1-axis flat turn turret, which is going to be of use. So, how many pieces do I need to install that 2-meter rack on? Oh, it says a 3-meter? Anyway, yeah. Sorry, a 2-meter, which requires 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 will give it enough. However, in the interest of rate of fire, we're going to increase it if we can. So, advanced cannons. We want the gauge increaser. I'm thinking like keep the turret small, if possible, because this is like a small craft, so we don't want anything really big sticking out. So the advanced firing piece can go on the front there. This has a 60. This is a 60mm at the moment, and then I will install splits. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I am deliberately doing this, by the way. We have the 4 meter clearance before we hit the outer edges of the hole, and that's the space I'm going to be working with. But I've upped it to 8 because I want to see how many 250mm barrels we can fit to this thing. So desired shell gauge is going to be 2, 5, 0. So 250mm barrels. And we are set flush to the upper hull, which is nice. I've not connected that properly because there we go. So 250, how many barrels can we get? It's either going to be 2 or 3, because I think 3 is like 200. No, 225 for a 3. How does that look? Actually, let's see, that's 250, that's 200. If we are prepared to use a... we could make this into a treble 200 without any actual problems. Let's do that. On a compact projectile system, its rate of fire is most easily achieved by multiple barrels, though it does mean barrel elevation is slower. So there are some drawbacks to it, but it has its uses. So we want this is a general purpose primary weapon, 2 meter AA mantlet, treble barrel. We want the bore evac. There it is, just because that increases shell firing speed. Then I'm going to install like heavy barrels, though that will slow the gun down a little bit. Regular barrel, that's heavy barrel. Yep, and then I'm going to actually install an additional bore evacuator at the front there. So I just do that for appearance. It doesn't need, well, it doesn't. Well, to be more accurate, it doesn't benefit from multiple bore evacuators, but it's still a generally good idea to have it. So, moving on. I need to redo this thing. So we have a 0.83, 5. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and capture a prefab of this. Just let's make it easier on ourselves this time. Length is going to be. There we go. Got it. And of course, it should still be a 2 meter rack, so that should be good. Actually, that fits more or less perfectly in place. So we're going to transfer that across. That is a complete accident, but it is perfect to fit there, and we put the local weapon controller right beneath the turret. And that is going to give us a 200mm 2 meter rack, 491 meters per second shell, effective out to a range of 5.7 kilometers if needed. That's a bit far, but it's way outside the range this thing is expected to really do anything at. Anyway, let's continue though. You are going to be weapon group 1 because you are primary weapon group. Flat out, no firing delay, no accuracy requirements. That's because you're not set up properly yet. Best accuracy, weapon slot 1, so we can direct control if required. Right. We've got the basics of our projectile system starting to come in. Now the question is, what are we going to do? We've actually got 3 meter space here, which is good, because that allows us to actually use fully racked clips to help keep the cost down. Get a 2 meter loader. Now that said, actually the cheapest route I think would... We could actually make a slightly more compact turret if we use... let's see what this will look like. So now we're playing Tetris, by the way. I'm going to go with singles into a double clip solid 2 meter clips, because I want to make sure to include enough space for recoil systems as well within this turret. And then we need the ammo input feeders, which will, unless I've got this wrong, I haven't. Yep, that gives us still a meter clearance for thickening the hull around this thing. Also, because it's clipped, we can actually install these things onto the sides of it, like that. Though I deliberately didn't space it a bit further so we could get that extra bit of hull around it. So, set that to all. To feed this thing, though, of course, we need ammo. Ammo. Switch back to the main web ship and give ourselves some ammo storage. Ammo storage is a fun one though, because it always tends to go boom. 1, 2, that would kill some of the control systems if we put it on the front there. If we put it near the... we want it to be protected as much as possible. I think 1, 2, 3. If I put it there, it won't damage the turret, but it will blow out forward steering if those boxes get torched. I guess that'll do for a bit of a forward magazine, but ammo on a craft this size is always going to be a bit of a risk. But at least here, we're actually below the sloping of the hull. So that gives us at least something to try and protect it, though from the underside we are not protected in the slightest, so we have to especially watch out for torpedoes and things. And then we are also going to put in some, I think at the back is probably also a relatively safe spot. 3, if I put it there, it'll blow out the air pump if it gets hit, but it won't, and it'll also blow out pitch control. But I think this is going to be our primary magazine now, back there. But this craft gets clobbered by too much, it's going to have a bad time of it, let's put it that way. But there we go, that's plenty of ammunition. Should be good. The cannon is... I don't have a fire control computer. Whoops. An FCC, install that there. There we go, this is an anti-surface / anti-air primary cannon. Note the slow barrel elevation caused by the fact it's a treble barrel. But then when we fire, let's actually get a target. I'm going to tell it to stop because I don't want it to be shooting. Six seconds. Okay, but how's it going to handle emptying? But then again, remember, it's got like it's got 6 loaders, but each loader has 2 clips of ammo for faster loading. That seems to be actually handling okay. Quite steady. Its accuracy isn't that good, but we can fix that just by increasing the barrel size quite a bit. Its inaccuracy is like 946. That's not very good for long range. Let's get regular barrels because 0.5, 0.4, that is actually very accurate, very long barrel. That should be good. Yep, there we go, that is a marked improvement in accuracy. So, let us continue. We need to have some kind of cooling, I think, to boost the performance. I'm not quite happy with its fire rate. I will be completely honest, I'm not happy with its fire rate. Blooming fire rate. So, I am going to modify the cannon a little bit more. Find the right tab, there we go. Right, so, to avoid accidentally clearing the clips, I am going to install it there. With a gauge increaser here. Yep. And I'm doing it like this first so that when I install the gauge increasers here and overwrite these ones, it's not going to empty the clips because the barrels are suddenly too small. If I do that, and then I've got these extra spaces for cooling gauges now. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Yep, that's looking okay. Much better rate of fire. We've also got the long barrel, which I will need to weight balance because it's a small craft, but I'll get to that in a second. Let's see, 3.6. Let's see, are you... You are, yep. The only drawback is, of course, the smaller one. It's actually paradoxically got, I think, a slower rate of fire because of extra powder charge required for a heavier shell. So that's a slight issue with it. But 0.3, if we slow it down a little bit to like 100 FPS, that means FPS? 100 frames per second, yes. 100 RPM. I know that's kind of sluggish, but it will space the shots very nicely. It'll be burst firing a little bit, but it will be pretty steady. That's not too bad. Probably do with more shots though. Yeah, that's pretty steady. Not bad for a light kinetic. Though we do kind of lack a bit of versatility at the moment, I must admit. I think we could further cool this thing, let it go a bit faster. Unfortunately, my normal approach, which would be like yeah. There we go. So I've just added an extra cooling piece. Actually, if I'm going to do it just that, I might as well just stick it on top. So right now we are cooling at 3.6. And now we are cooling at 3.3, so it's a little bit faster. So yeah, that's a fairly decent thing. I think I'm going to leave that turret like that. It's kind of like a sniping hull breaker. It does okay, but it's not that powerful / effective in general. It's a shell like that is really, you want more volume on it than anything else, but we don't have the spacing for that. The only last thing I will do to this particular turret though is I will add in some hydraulics. Just to... And there, yeah, look at that. Suddenly we have no kind of recoil problems. Yeah, that's not too bad. That will do nasty things to a lot of targets. Okay. Let's put a cap on it and seal it up. We also need to weight balance this darn thing. Blocks, lead blocks, please. Center of mass is over here because of the flipping barrel. I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip out some of the rear hydraulics. Like that. So our recoil compensation, we had too much because there was no recoil whatsoever. But I can use that space now to put in some lead. And that has brought my centre of mass for this turret actually just back behind the neck. That is great. So that means when this thing turns, it's not going to actually really try to roll the craft at all. I just like to weight balance things. In fact, I don't think we need that lead block there anymore anyway. So we can go ahead and make this thing just a little dome turret. Yeah, we can make this thing a little dome turret, I think.